This afternoon we'll continue with the Brahmaviharas, and today I'll share a bit about compassion practice and offer some instructions for compassion practice. And it takes a lot of compassion to sit with ourselves, doesn't it? It takes a lot of compassion to keep showing up, to make our hearts available for this practice and what this practice asks of us. Compassion is the heart that quivers when it meets suffering. So metta, as Matthew and Dara instructed and shared about, metta is this boundless heart of kindness, great, great kindness for ourselves and for life itself, all the sentient creatures. And compassion is particular to the experience of suffering. It's a response of a wise heart when we encounter our own suffering or the suffering of another. And in our lives, there seems to be endless opportunities to practice compassion because we live in our human predicament of wanting to be free, wanting to understand, and also having the presence of some of the fundamental confusion where our understanding is limited. So it's this experience of being an embodied human being calls for the presence of this type of care. The exquisite sensitivity of body and mind, of a heart that can armor, and a heart that also has great capacity for rawness and vulnerability. Not just human hearts, the hearts of creatures. So, as we've been talking about, it's in our nature to experience a measure of stress, to experience a measure of unsatisfactoriness. And as the path unfolds, there's ways that can become even more apparent. Physically, emotionally. Is this? Is this better? Is this still picking up my voice? Yeah? Okay, thank you. Let's give this a shot. That's better. Thank you. So there's physical suffering, there's emotional suffering, there's the suffering of living within extractive systems. There's the suffering of white supremacy and sexism and homophobia and intergenerational trauma. There's plenty of suffering. And on this path, it's within our nature to suffer. It's also within our nature to experience freedom in our hearts, in our bodies, to really see through the ways that the confusion has been passed down to us. So you might just consider, how does your own tender heart quiver, flutter, move in the face of personal and collective suffering? And I'm aware, especially after being in our small groups the last few days, how many of you are coming here with a kind of compassion fatigue. Many of you have been holding a lot of space for many beings in the pandemic, and there's a feeling of needing to rest, restore, heal. And as Matthew mentioned, there can just be this feeling of a backlog when we come to practice in this way. And a practice of balanced compassion helps us to not be overwhelmed so much with the suffering of the world, to not be separate from, to be responsive, but not to be so overwhelmed, because if we're underwater in all of it, things just get pretty stuck. So the practice is allowing the suffering to move through, but not so much taking it on. Those are two different things, aren't they? I wanted to share with you a short passage from the Sutta Nipata. It's the chapter of the eights in the discourses, and this came from the time of the Buddha, and the people who were following him and his teachings were dealing with the challenges of their time, going against the current and wanting to understand the roots of what keep this stress and tension in place. And to me, this is such a relevant passage for life today. And the word atadanda means taking up a stick. Fear is born from arming oneself. Just see how many people fight. I'll tell you about the dreadful fear that caused me to shake all over. Seeing creatures flopping around like fish in water too shallow. So hostile to one another, and seeing this, I became afraid. This world completely lacks essence. It trembles in all directions. I longed to find a place in myself unscathed, but I could not see it. Seeing people locked in conflict, I had become completely distraught. But then I discerned here a thorn, hard to see, lodged deep in the heart. It's only when pierced by this thorn that one shakes and runs in all directions. So if this thorn is taken out, one does not run, one settles down. So the thorn, is a metaphor for the fundamental confusion that keeps the cycle of suffering in place. And compassion is part of how we settle. Compassion is part of what gives us the capacity to not be running in so many directions, but to stay in a way that's grounded, kind, beautiful and deep. And I love teaching up here because at the back of the hall is a statue, a rupa, an image of Kuan Yin, who's a representation of one way of understanding compassion. And you'll see that there's a kind of split that goes down through her head and her heart, kind of like the form in the walking hall as well. And compassion's a little like that. It's a little like being willing for the heart to be pierced open in this way. And so we can train our hearts to move in the direction of care, of mercy, of resonance, in the face of all that life brings, in the face of what one 45-minute period of meditation brings. And so compassion is kind of like a reclamation of our innate sensitivity in a way that includes capacity and ground. And compassion is such a crucial part of what allows insight to do its work. Without compassion, the insight doesn't deepen very much. And Dara mentioned yesterday the near and far enemies of metta. The far enemy of compassion, the opposite of compassion, is cruelty. The opposite of compassion. And the near enemy, compassion masquerading, the near enemy of compassion is pity. Pity's a little bit of can be a kind of arrogance. Like, I'm up here, you're down there, you poor little thing. There's a separateness there. Compassion is a resonance, a deep resonance beneath the words. And so before I guide us in some compassion practice, I just wanted to share with you a beautiful offering from Venerable Analayo. Yesterday, Dra talked about all 4 Brahmaviharas that we'll explore on this retreat, and he has a simile based on the sun. And it's the sun in a cool climate, kind of like here. You know, when the sun shines here at IMS, it feels so good, right? It's not too hot. It's just so radiant and agreeable. And so Venerable Analayo speaks of the practice of metta being like the sun in the middle of the day when there aren't any clouds, that just illuminates everything equally, just like loving kindness shines in all directions. And Venerable Analayo speaks about the practice of compassion or karuna as being like the sun at sunset, just coloring the sky before the darkness of the night descends. Have you spent time looking at the sunset? Compassion is kind of that quality as darkness is about to descend, being face to face with suffering and affliction. The radiance of compassion, which is unfettered and undeterred by the suffering of the world. It's like that kind of poignant beauty of the sunset, knowing that something's dissolving away, that there's an ending. And he speaks about the practice of joy, or mudita, as being like the sun at sunrise, just the air being fresh, the birds singing, the heart being filled with joy of a new day. And he uses the image for equanimity or upekkha as the full moon on a night without clouds, just reflecting the light of the sun, that striking beauty of a full moon filling the heart when the mind can become like a wide open sky. So compassion is a bit of that felt sense, if you wish, of the heart as the sun sets. So I invite you to just begin the meditation by sensing your lower body. And sensing the stability of your base, where your body touches the cushion or the chair. And sing the presence and the density of your hips and your legs and your feet. Noticing how at any moment you can sense the groundedness of your body as well as the space around your body. And if it's helpful, you may allow the attention to rest in the heart center. A place where we tend to feel a lot of emotion, a place of responsiveness in the body, and you might sense how it would be as if the breath could move in all directions through the heart center. Just a radiant breath through the heart center. Gently aware of what's here for you. And we'll take some time first to receive the presence of compassion. Just let your heart receive of whatever flavor of compassion arises for you. It might be just an exquisitely sensitive presence that meets you, holds you, cares for you. And this presence may be known through the image of a being with whom you've experienced compassion, from whom you've experienced compassion. Maybe just simply calling on compassion as a force in the universe. May great compassion come rest in my heart. As if you could be just sitting right across from the great heart of Kuan Yin, the great heart of a being who has cared about you in the rough moments. Breathing and letting your heart soak in the care, presence of compassion that doesn't need to fix or change you, but is right here with you. Compassion may feel light or strong. Might be like a soothing menthol balm right over your heart. As if this presence could just say, I understand, I'm here. I care, I sincerely care about your pain, about your sorrow. I need nothing in return. May your pain be eased. May you find peace. This presence is the kind of quality that a grandmother might embody as she looks at her grandchild sleeping. I care about your suffering. May you be held in compassion. May you know peace. Just breathing and letting your heart space be available as much as possible. It's compassion right here, this moment. For you personally. As you are, where you are, how you are. And now I invite you to offer compassion to your own good heart. Maybe appreciating the ways your heart has known great love and also heartbreak. Just making space for the presence of any difficulty that's been here for you on this retreat. Don't pick the biggest one. Just any place of friction or struggle. Might be something in your body, physically. It could be just the waves of feeling that are here regarding something that's happened for you. May my suffering be held with compassion. I care about my suffering. May I attend to myself with tenderness. If it feels like a stretch or kind of false to touch in with the presence of compassion, you can just have the intention to care about that too. I care about my suffering. And may this difficulty be held in the great heart of compassion. May this pain be eased. If it's helpful to put your hand on your heart, to tune into this great, deep capacity for responsiveness, you're welcome to do that. Sensing how you're not just the suffering, you're also that which can hold it. May I meet myself with care. Almost the way you would hold a small and fragile bird. So much care. Great sensitivity, tenderness. May I attend with care. May that be enough. And we'll take some time without instruction just to explore how it is to bless yourself in this way. Whether you connect with receiving compassion or offering yourself compassion. It's this simple heart's intention. I care. I care about this moment. I care about my suffering. May my pain be eased. Don't follow the story of the suffering too much. Just gently returning to your wish, to your heart's intention of care. Just keep feeling how the compassion's already within you. Deeply native to your heart. I care about my suffering. In the last several minutes of the meditation, if you wish, you might allow the field of the compassion to become more vast. To allow your radiant and boundless heart to just include whatever images or beings or groups of beings may come into your mind or heart. Just wishing, may you be free from pain. I care about your suffering. You may include beings who are near and in the room. You may include beings quite far away. I care about your suffering. May your pain and sorrow be eased. You may include beings who are being born today and beings who are dying today. You may include beings of the sky and the sea and the land. You may include the people of Ukraine and all the millions of lives that are touched by the Russian invasion. As this simple wish, the great heart of compassion, radiating out in all directions. A lived wish, may all beings be free from suffering. May all beings know peace, truly know peace.
Thank you for listening. To learn how you can support the teachers and Dharma Seed, please visit dharmaseed.org/donate.